So, as a parent of 5 kids, one of the things that I catch myself doing, even though I'm so strengths based, is actually focusing on the negative things about my kids. And if I were to ask you, if you're a parent, what are the 3 words that you use most often? If I were to get all the thousands and thousands of words that you use in the entire year and break it down into frequency, what is the 3 words you usually use on your kids? Right? Take out all the thers and a's and all the connecting words. The 3 words that you usually use, which I'm guilty of as well, is no, stop, and don't. Don't take that from your sister. No, not now. No, no taking lollipops now before dinner, for example. And stop doing that. Stop running. Stop sitting there. Stop sitting on the table. If you think about it, you're similar to me, that we actually focus on a lot of the things that's negative. So if we think about society as a whole, why we are so negative, one of the things I can think about is that actually since young, a child grows up knowing that what not to do. What no, the no's, the don't do that, don't do this, and the stop doing that. But do they really know what they should do? So one of the things when it comes to this idea of positive parenting is that how do I actually switch that to something positive? And one of the ways to do that is actually tell them the behavior you want them to see, right? Then that's going to be very clear for them. So when we think about that, we can say that, hey, actually, instead of no having sweets now before dinner, and instead of doing that, you can say that actually you can have sweets after dinner. After your dinner, you can do that, right? Or say, don't sit on the table, right? It will break. And instead of saying that, you could say that, hey, why don't you sit on the chair, right? Because if you sit on the table, that it might break. So tell them where to go. And that's the parenting part. But I'm actually quite fascinated as a whole society. What are some things that we do as a child grows up? Why are we so weakness focused as a society? So we talked about the kids part, right? When you're a child, they grow up a lot of negative words. They kind of like hear. But then after that, when they go to school, if you go to school and if you're or you were in school last time and you came back with a report card that says ABBF, where would your parents spend most time on? They would spend most time on the F, not the A. The A is already good, right? So not only your parents, but your teachers. Your teachers will say, hey, how come you didn't do this? How come you didn't do that? You get tuition, remedial, you get everything. When you go back home, you get your phone privileges cancelled. You can't watch TV. You get more tuition. So in the school side, when they were students, they are kind of trained to focus on the things that they are bad in, the Fs. And what do we do with the A's? Ignore them. Most of the time they say that, okay, don't focus on that, kind of just focus on the Fs that you have. Try to get them to a C, B, or even better still, an A. So the second part of society, or as a child when they grow up, they focus on the Fs. The first part, they focus on the don'ts, the no's, and the stops. Then when they go into work, in the office, in the corporation, when they're working as an adult, what do their managers spend most time talking to them about? And even team members, do they talk about how great you are in certain aspects? Or do they actually talk about this thing called AFIs, areas for improvement, gaps that they have? Some people call it, I know the Ministry of Education in Singapore, they change it from areas for improvement, they change it to areas for growth, AFGs. Same thing. It is about the gaps, the weaknesses you have. Oh, you're not really good in this, you need to come up with a developmental plan to be better at that. So as adults, they are looking at all the weaknesses. They are constantly bombarded by their manager, their boss, their team members about what's bad about them. So no wonder as a whole society, we're so weakness focused. And one of the things that we think about is that then, why does anybody talk about strengths then? So when I talk about strengths, I'm fighting so many different levels. But when I fight these levels, I want them to understand that actually there's so much uniqueness, so much good, so much greatness that's inside them. And when you actually talk to somebody who has been bombarded by all these things, you kind of get the feeling that they just don't know what they're good at. They are very, very clear about what they're not good in, but when you ask them what's their strength, they get a little bit timid. They are not really sure. So one thing that we can do as fellow colleagues, as team members, or even as bosses, try to find out what they are so good in and bring it out. Start to draw out the things that you know that they are so unique in. They have somewhat of an unfair advantage over the other team members. And bring it out, because I can almost guarantee you, you might think that, don't they know what they're good at? They don't. Throughout their entire life, in these 3 stages, adulthood, from their bosses and team members, when they are in school, from the teachers and even parents, and when they are younger, from parents, all this while they've been taught what is bad about them. Try to change that. And join me, partner with me, and try to change the world by actually figuring out, hey, for this guy, Jim, what is he good at in during discussions or in a team meeting? Maybe I should just tell him. And I guarantee you they'll be surprised when you say something like, hey, Jim, actually just now when you're sharing that idea, it was actually really good, really well presented. Do you practice? Then he'll probably say, no, I didn't. I said, wow, that's a talent. Start bringing out the best in people. And once you do that and they do that for you, we are breaking this whole societal change, breaking this whole societal mold of being weakness focused to a little bit more strength focused.